I'm just gonna
drive.
roll with this while it.
They'll stop one car left on the track and be short of Martinsville.
lose
They'll leave
battery.
Martinsville open.
Lovely.
And it's like, it's like, what's the more important one,
rezone.
really?
Text
Yeah.
went up, there's nothing in the
I
back.
watched one where we got there, and I heard the
Oh,
7-year-old in the
yeah.
back. He's like, "What are they doing?" And we're watching, and they slowed and then started backing up, and I just started laughing. I'm like,
presentation.
"We're gonna be late no matter what." Why do they do this?
Good, good.
Wheelchair after this.
Uh-oh. Four,
Oh, not a wheelchair, a walker.
four.
My mom.
Oh,
Yeah, I found one in Monroe, like trying to get.
Hi, video. I didn't say hi when you came.
Phone calls, so I just went on Facebook Marketplace and found a new one in Monroe. So
Facebook Marketplace, my
Not
dog
enough
lost her
laptops in the
electronic
room for
collar.
someone to hand you a
If I
scuba
ordered
to
off Amazon, it was
rebreathe
180.
off of.
I got the exact same brand new one for $85. And it's brand new too in the package.
and Walker.
say medical therapeutic. It's got like where you can sit on it, you can adjust it.
I got one. My dad had one.
How are you?
Does it have the wheels on it?
Huh?
Absolutely.
How? What part?
The seat folds up so that you can put stuff underneath it.
Oh,
The
awesome.
lights on the stairs.
It's just for a little bit.
When I walk down there,
Oh, you know what? Those are kind of dark.
somebody might
And I
fall
couldn't
down
drive
these
out to
steps.
Grass Lake
It's a long story,
anymore,
but
so it's something
my
we had to
sister was
give.
studying.
Lights,
So
I'm like,
yeah,
I
I
think I
just
need a
moved
couple
it in
more.
there last Thursday. So
Happy to be of
When
service.
can I
I got 5:30.
Is it like on the newer side?
I am showing 5:30 as well.
3-4 years ago, but she never really used it.
I could go, I think. I've been once before and
Then
I just
Dad
love
used it for about 6 months. So it's
What can I give
basically
you for it?
nothing.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's taking up
'Cause
space.
I was
So
going to pay $50 for,
you have to drive to I'll
no,
He's turning us on just to warn you.
get your number and
Recording in progress.
Welcome to the Charter Township of Van Buren Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, May 25th, 2022. I have called the meeting to order and have a roll call, please.
Here.
Brian Cullen,
here.
Medina Atchison.
here.
Excused. Sherry Budd is excused. Brian Kelly.
We have a motion before us. I have a motion to approve the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
And
Got a motion by Commissioner Cullen, support by Commissioner Jar. Any comments or discussions regarding the agenda?
Commissioner, excuse me, through the chair, I do have one item just for clarification on tonight's agenda. We did find out recently, unfortunately, that Commissioner Garrett is moving. She had a nice, some good insights in her short tenure here, but she will have to resign from the Planning Commission. She's let us know she's doing that. So she will officially be a vacancy on tonight's meeting, not a excused absence.
Director Power. Any other comments or discussion regarding the motion before us? Seeing as none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the agenda is approved. Next item up is the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of May 11th, 2022. Have a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Support.
And a motion from Commissioner Jar, support by Commissioner Cullen. Any comments or discussion regarding the minutes? All in favor to accept the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion to accept the minutes passes. The first item on our agenda this evening is the Sumter Road Corridor Plan Public Hearing. The Charter Township of Van Buren has completed a draft amendment to its 2020 master plan to address the sub-area located along the near Sumter Road between Bemis Road and Industrial Park Drive, consistent with the provisions of the Michigan Public Act 33 of 2008 as amended, also known as the Michigan Planning and Enabling Act. The Charter Township of Van Buren is holding a public hearing and will hear comments regarding the draft master plan this evening. So we have a motion to open the public hearing tonight.
Through the chair, I move that we open the public hearing.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Atchison, support by Commissioner Cullen. All those in favor of opening the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing as none, the public hearing is now officially open. All right, so if we have anybody here this evening that would like to speak on our first agenda item, which is the Sumter Road Corridor public hearing, if you could please step up to the microphone and then first state your name, state your address, and then we'd love to hear any comments that you would have regarding this item.
Through the chair,
Yes.
if I could just provide some context for the public hearing tonight, it might be helpful to know there's not much attendance tonight, but there's a lot of public comment that's fed into this process so far. So we have this hearing structured on the agenda actually before our other hearing, which is a hearing regarding a rezoning before we break into new business topics on those two items. And this is the first item. So the Sumter Road Corridor Plan, I just want to give a little bit of background that there has been, like I said, a lot of public comment that's fed into this effort over the last year and a half. If you look on our website at vanburen-mi.org and you go to the Sumter Road Corridor Plan link, you'll be able to find all the comments. I think we got all of them that were written in letters that are transcribed onto the website for view. And you can see that there are around 40 written comments there, and there were a lot of participants at a workshop last July at the fire station on Sumter Road. So there's a large body of public input that's fed into the discussion so far. That being said, I want to make sure we have an opportunity to hear from a resident who's here tonight and anybody else who might be participating via Zoom. I'll check the Zoom link as well. So I think we have Ms. Kazara here.
Thank you so much, Director Power.
Carol Kazara, 43 Cheney Street. I have lived on residential property bordering adjacent to a non-conforming business on Sumter Road forever. I have been very happy all these years that the future master plans have had us at the lowest possible commercial use of C, and I have written this up in that perspective because I always thought it gave me the best protection. Shallow commercial property adjacent to residential property, like the parcels on the northwest side of Sumter from Hull to Spencer, should not ever be zoned Sumter Road Mixed Use District. C, local business is the current and proper zoning designation for these parcels. Let me explain why. C is the lowest level of commercial zoning. C is the local business district. And where I got the first part that I'm reading is from here, C local district from Van Buren Township, and C1 General Business District, Van Buren Township. I had said C is the lowest level of commercial zoning. C is local business district. The local business district is intended to permit retail business and service uses. Let me get something under this. Which are needed to serve nearby residential areas. Some permitted uses are office, retail, dental, medical, grocery store. Plainly stated in C, under required conditions, restrictions, and uses is No drive-in or drive-through uses shall be permitted. No use involving the sale of alcohol for consumption on premises shall be permitted. All business activities shall be conducted within completely enclosed building. Business should deal directly with consumer, and it's longer than that on there. C zoning keeps commercial establishments small for local residents and rural. The next level of commercial zoning is C1, General Business District, where businesses are more intense. And this comes right from that document. This district is intended to permit a wider range of business and entertainment activities than C. The permitted uses are intended to provide business and services found in major shopping centers and central business districts at the junction of major streets. These uses generate large volumes of vehicular traffic, require substantial areas for off-street parking and loading, and require detailed planning, particularly as to relationships with adjacent residential areas. C1 uses include all of the C uses. C1 lists at least 25 more permitted intense uses, as well as 19 special land uses. The Sumter Road Mixed Use District includes all of C permitted uses. I think all of C1 permitted uses. Light industrial, apartments, residential, and other zoning. Included in mixed use are businesses that are currently in C1 under special land use, like restaurant, drive-through, and drive-in, and bank financial institutions with drive-through. These permitted uses under mixed use are not allowed under C. In the first working plan session, the commission decided to include taverns and bars in mixed use, which are not allowed in C and which I would not want located next to me. I don't know what isn't included in mixed use. Some of the permitted uses in mixed use would cause undue stress, noise, and light for adjacent residents, making home life miserable instead of a haven, perhaps causing residents to move. The commercial property next to me is considered a frontage shallow lot, less than 200 feet deep. It is currently zoned C and has been C for as long as I can remember. If it changes to mixed use, my protection against undesirable businesses prohibited under C is gone. Noise, lights, traffic, volume, hours of operation, pollution, parking, type of building size, are extremely important factors in these close commercial residential relationships. They increase in importance with the intense commercial uses being allowed in mixed use. Screening and landscaping also become even more important. Being a good neighbor is especially important when it is a commercial business on a shallow lot. You not only have the owners, but the employees and customers that create noise. Noise travels, light invades. Try listening to unwanted music from car radios and boom boxes like you hear from Citgo gas stations since their expansion. Motorcycles and cars rev their engines and squeal out of their parking lot. Truck backup noise is especially loud. I occasionally get music and boom boxes from the adjacent business, but not often because the fellow renting from them has been very considerate and kind, knowing that a residence is next door. The Sumter Road Corridor Plan was supposed to keep the land south of Sumter and Hall rural. Instead, the plan has commercial, light industrial anchor lots on the southeast and southwest corners of Sumter and Hall. These anchor lots have more than doubled in size and are developing further south down Sumter on both sides. The zoning has changed from local commercial district to the more intense Sumter Road mixed-use district. Sumter Road will look like Belleville Road with the expansion and zoning change. Mixed-use zoning does not retain a rural or semi-rural atmosphere. It promotes development and growth. Many of the uses like bars, taverns, banks with drive-through do not belong on frontage shallow lots adjacent to commercial. Would you want these in your backyard? Mixed-use zoning does not belong on these shallow parcels. C, local business is the proper zoning for these parcels. I urge you to keep C zoning for shallow frontage lots adjacent to residential properties. I will have to live with these mixed-use decisions 24 hours a day. That's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming in this evening.
Pardon?
Thank you for coming in this evening and speaking up regarding the current development, how you feel about the plan as it sits. Do we have anybody else this evening that'd like to speak? Thank you.
My name is Edward Berger, and I live at 13701 Whitetail Run in Milford, Michigan. I am an owner of 40 acres tax item on Sumter Road on the east side. I have really more questions than comments, although I do have some comments. I had some problems with reviewing what you've proposed, the planning consultant, on my computer because I miss part of the eyesight, and so I'm asking, number one, is it printed and available? I see that it's 75 pages, and I don't really need it all. I really need kind of the critical part, so perhaps you can answer that for me later. Some of the things, and I'm a little scratchy in my voice because I had heart surgery for 2 hours on Monday, but I was determined to get down and see what's going on. One of my concerns is that the stated goal is to retain, one of the things, retain roadside drainage along Sumter Road, and that I'm all for, except it doesn't exist or barely exists. On the west side of Sumter Road, as a kid living there, I trapped muskrats, and that stream and ditch was flowing year-round. It's totally clogged and useless today, and the drain on the east side of the highway is, or Sumter Road, is virtually gone. It's just overcome with brush and debris and overgrowth. So we don't get the drainage. Later on, it says it's prime farmland. Well, I got to tell you, it's not. It might be somewhere, but it isn't in Van Buren Township in the south area of Belleville. The two active farmers of any consequence, one comes from Saline, Michigan, and drags all of his stuff over on flatbed trucks. The other comes from Milan, Michigan, and trucks all of his equipment over. It's not local farming in that sense. It's transitional from a time when those properties probably were productive, at least they were when I lived there, and farmed up until I was 21. But things have changed, and to take on the idea of retaining that is, I think the word was prime farmland, protected from development, is kind of goes against the grain with me. Farming is, the other comment, number one, an objective is farming as an essential economic activity. That really is not the case. I mean, it's corn and beans, and you can plant corn and beans in a lot of other places. People plant it there because it's it's what you have to plant. The days of truck farming are gone. Walter Midlars, who was on Hull Road, is gone. My dad is gone. The truck farming to the markets in Detroit is just impossible. So I want to bring that to your attention. One of the comments, number 2, was they want minimal public services, sewer, water, trash collection, police security, and really you've succeeded. Police security didn't help us. Farmer had baled hay stolen right out of his farm, right out of the property at night, and tools stolen from their equipment when they were out in the field working. So, you report it. I don't remember what the results were from that standpoint, but if you report it to your insurance company, you don't get the value of your tools. You get a check and an increase in your insurance, which happened to us. So that's kind of a concern. Those properties, nobody lives there, and so nobody's around 24 hours a day or 7 days a week. So those are concerns that I have going forward. There's something in number 3 that I can't read my own writing, something about low density. And the other thing about not having farming on main roads, one of the farmers many of you probably know, and whose last name is Martin, you cannot drive a tractor and your equipment down the road anymore safely. I mean, he was run into because, they go 15 miles an hour, and you can have all the flags and everything you want on them, but people drive way too fast, and it just is not safe. And lowering the speed limit won't make any difference. That area from Bemis Road to Hull Road is very, very fast, and it's difficult even to turn in and out of the property that I have there. Well, I think I covered number 5. They want agriculture away from main highways and so forth. I just wanted to bring some of these things to your attention. The last item, I guess, that's on my mind is, and the plan shows, and I admit I haven't read it all. I've read only what I could get to, but it shows the crosshatch for the east side of Sumter Road, and not on the other side, and I don't know really what the distinction is. And I'm thinking, or I'm hoping that the crosshatch in my area would allow some kind of potential development there, so that the land could be put to a more economic use. So I'll leave those comments, and maybe you can address them. I'm not sure who the chair is here. There he is. Okay, so I'll leave it to you, sir.
Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you for coming in. It's quite impressive you come down here after your busy week. Director Power, is there a possibility we can get a paper copy to Mr. Berger?
Absolutely. Mr. Berger, if you'd like to stay through the meeting, I'd be glad to get one to you after the meeting. Otherwise, we can set up a time for you to stop back by. All right.
Have anybody else that would like to speak from the audience on this agenda item? Director Power, do we have anybody on Zoom that's logged in and want to speak?
You have something in the chat. And they are non-agenda related comments, and I see no hands raised. There was an audio gap on the Zoom. So anybody who's participating on Zoom, and I'll speak this into the microphone, the meeting is also being recorded live on YouTube, so we can check that there. There was the Zoom had been muted temporarily. So I guess I would invite people again, if anybody here has any comments about the Sumter Road Corridor Plan that's attending on Zoom, please raise your hand or speak up. We do have Adam Cook from McKenna, the planning consultant who worked on this plan with us over the last year and a half. He's attending, as well as a couple of other remote participants, but no other comments specific to the public hearing tonight.
Thank you so much, Director Power. Do you have any commissioners that would like to speak to this agenda item this evening? All right, or anybody else in the audience one more time? Then, if there's no more comment on this agenda item, I would look for a motion to close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing.
Support.
And a motion by Commissioner Cullen, support by Commissioner Jar. Do we have any comments or discussion regarding the present motion? So we have none. All in favor to close the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing as there's none, the public hearing is closed. And that concludes our first agenda item. It brings us up to number 2, which is case number 22-022. I believe we have it's another public hearing, correct, Director Power? I might have. That's why. All right, we have Ashley Crossroads Distribution Center North LLC. It is a rezoning request. They have made a request for rezoning of the identified property from R1B Single Family Residential to M1 Light Industrial. And so if we could get a motion from a commissioner to open the public hearing on this agenda item, please.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move to open the public hearing for item number 2.
Thank you so much. We have support.
Support.
We have motion by Commissioner Jar, support by Commissioner Cullen. Have any comments or discussion regarding the motion? As none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes, and we are open for public hearing on agenda item number 2, the Ashley Crossroads rezoning request. Director Power, do you want to start us off with any comments regarding this item?
Sure, there will be a report that I'll ask for our planning consultant to share her findings on during the new business item on this topic, and that'll be right. We're kind of mirroring the first part of the agenda. We'll have that discussion before we get back into the Sumter Road Corridor discussion under new business. But again, this is just to open public hearing for the rezoning request for 6690 Haggerty Road on the west side of Haggerty Road, south of Van Born Road. The rezoning request is for R1B to M1, as stated by the chair. I don't think anybody here is here to make comment other than I see a representative of Crossroads Distribution Center North here. I'm sure he'll have some things to say during the new business item, but let me check the Zoom.
Thank you so much.
And there are no comments in the Zoom for this one.
Thank you, Director Power. Just make one more request. Anybody in the audience wish to speak to this agenda item? Any of the commissioners? All right, and with that, I would ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, hearing no more public comment on the item, I move to close the public hearing.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Jar, support by Commissioner Cullen. Any comments or discussion regarding the pending motion? Seeing as we have none, all those in favor to close the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion to close the public hearing passes. That will bring us up to our first new business item this evening, which is case number 22-022, Ashley Crossroads Distribution Center LLC rezoning request. And I believe we have a presentation by township staff.
Yes, I'll defer the comments on the request to Vidya Krishnan, and I'll pull up a couple images that might help orient people to the site while she makes her comments. Thank you.
Director Power.
Thank you, Director Power, members of the commission. The request before you tonight is from Ashley Crossroads North to rezone a 1.83 acre parcel from R1B to M1 Light Industrial. And this parcel is once again located on the west side of Haggerty Road, just north of Ecorse. The applicant appeared before you at your last meeting with a request for a whole bunch of parcels from R1B to M1. They managed to buy this parcel, but not in time to make the public hearing notice. So they had to wait in order to apply separately for this parcel. The future land use designation for this site, all of the parcels to its north, south, east, and west is all light industrial. This whole area is zoned. It's currently zoned, many of these parcels are zoned R1B, but the master plan for this entire area is M1 light industrial. The request that came before you last month included rezoning of the parcel immediately to its north and south from R1B to M1. Rezoning this parcel will make all of the contiguous parcels into a single zoning designation. There are numerous standards in the zoning ordinance. We have summarized those in brief instead of doing a very detailed analysis on this. The proposed rezoning is consistent with the goals, policies, and objectives of the master plan and the subsequent amendments to it. This proposal is also consistent with the intent of the zoning ordinance and the existing pattern of development in the area. As you're all aware, Ashley Capital owns all of the empty zoned parcels in that area. Pretty much all of the land that goes from Ecorse Road all the way up to Van Born is owned by Ashley. Several of the parcels over a period of time Ashley has acquired from the homeowners who are situated over there. And they have been steadily working in trying to acquire the properties in order to create a full industrial complex in that area. We anticipate the existing roadway. At this time, there is no plan to actually use this parcel. They're just rezoning it so that they have consistent zoning. So Haggerty Road is slated by Wayne County for major improvements to be done to it. That is something that is being coordinated between county, Ashley, DTA, and all of the other developers in that area. At the time of site plan approval, if this parcel involves an access onto Haggerty Road, we will be requiring a traffic study and any necessary roadway improvements at such time. The township is experiencing a demand for increased industrial area. Ashley Crossroads North, that was approved with a 250,000 square foot light industrial and two 650,000 square foot buildings. Pretty much all of those buildings the applicant has already leased out or has tenants for. So they are acquiring and assimilating all the industrial zone parcels, not merely to change it, but with a plan towards making something that is consistent with the master plan. The proposed light industrial use zoning will serve the existing and proposed industrial uses to the north, south, and west. It is not going to create any exclusionary zoning or is not going to isolate a residentially zoned parcel. The uses permitted by right and special land use in the M1 district are more consistent with developing of industrial uses more consistent with the M1 zoning than trying to change the R1B zoning to allow for industrial uses. Given the all possible options, we believe the M1 designation is the most appropriate for this area to create a contiguous industrial zoning. As I previously mentioned, at such time when a site plan is submitted for development of these parcels, all of the requirements with respect to any access, green belts, berms, tree planting, tree removal, all of that will be reviewed and any necessary conditions placed. At this time, it is our recommendation that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the requested amendment to the zoning map to rezone the subject property from R1B to M1 light industrial designation to the Board of Trustees. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Krishnan. Do you have any comments or discussion from the applicant?
My name is Dennis Schultz. I live at 4070 Crabtree Lane in Plymouth, Michigan. We're just wrapping up all the zoning to move forward.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming this evening.
That's about it.
All right. Do we have any comments or questions from any of the commissioners regarding this agenda item? No? All right. Any comments, questions from anybody in the audience? Director Power, do we have anybody on Zoom? All right. Thank you so much. All right. Are we ready to take action on this agenda item? Yes, Commissioner Jar.
The matter of item 1, case 22-022, Ashley Crossroads Distribution Center North LLC rezoning request. I move that the Planning Commission recommend approval to the Township Board of Trustees for the requested amendment to the zoning ordinance made by the applicant Crossroads Distribution Center North LLC to rezone the property at, pardon me, 6690 Haggerty Road. That's got a parcel ID number of 8300899000900, 3 zeros at the end, from R1B Single Family Residential to M1 Light Industrial, based on the analysis and subject to the conditions detailed in the McKenna letter dated May 13th of 2020 and the letter of staff dated May 20th, 2022. And I may have misspoken.
Yes.
McKenna letter 2022. We missed about 2 years due to the COVID, and I'm still a little behind. So May 13th, 2022 for McKenna, May 20th, 2022 for letter of staff.
Thank you. Do we have support for the motion?
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Jar, support by Commissioner Barr. Do you have any questions or discussion, comments regarding this, this motion? Can we have a roll call, please?
Brian Cullen,
Yes.
Callie Barr,
Yes.
Medina Atchison,
Yes.
Jeff Jar,
Yes.
Brian Kelly.
Yes.
And motion passes. Thank you for attending tonight, and good luck. All right, item number 2 on new business is the discussion regarding the Sumter Road Corridor Plan. Director Power, would you like to start us with this?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to commend the Planning Commission and the subcommittee that's worked on this plan and the Township Board for their guidance, and the City of Belleville, Sumter Township for participating. We're at a point now where the plan has gone through the statutorily required 42-day review period with neighboring municipalities and service providers. And we are now at the point where, based on the typical process for a plan that is a sub-area portion of a township or city, after that 42-day minimum review period, we would have a public hearing. So that's where we are in the process on the plan. More practically speaking, though, there's still work to be done. At least my recommendation is that we should still keep kind of plugging away at this effort, because an integral part of this plan is the sister effort, which is developing a zoning ordinance that enacts the plan. So we're hearing a lot of good feedback as we continue to develop this. You heard Ms. Kazara tonight with some good feedback. There are some items in addition to her comments that I'm going over with our consultants on the plan, with Mr. Cook and Ms. Krishnan, about just some things to change in the document as we move closer to completing it. So I invite discussion tonight, but I'll just go over some minor changes that I know are in progress, and I will recommend that we continue to hold off our final recommendation until we're a little bit closer on the zoning ordinance amendments. But just to summarize some of those items that are being worked on currently, there are some issues that we're working through specific to the plan, minor formatting items with things like font size, clarification on one of the captions. But then one of the recommendations is to designate the lots other than anchor lots that are on Sumter Road as frontage as opposed to primary lots. That was kind of a naming choice that the Planning Commission made. Updating the renderings for clarity, especially the rendering that shows the shallow frontage lot, because that's that rendering was based off of actually the Bell Park Plaza in Belleville, which gives a really good visual example, but it is important to call out that is an example from the city of Belleville, or to have a different graphic that shows one of our sites. Having the workshop building type be a special land use, showing dashed lines for future potential road extensions as opposed to straight lines. Actually, a really good comment that was made by Mr. Berger is those hatched lines on the map. And we do need to clarify what those are. And let me see if I still have that page up, if it loads. But there's a section here where the future land use map calls for some design guidelines, not an actual change to the future land use category, but some design guidelines that would guide residential growth in that area. So that's what those hatch lines refer to. So just clarifying that those hatch lines are more of a design recommendation and not a specific required type of future land use in the plan. And clarifying that the lots in the rears that are currently landlocked, they shouldn't necessarily be designated as landlocked long into the future because they may change if there's street frontage provided to them. So a different name like secondary would be more applicable. And then some clarification on those deep frontage lots in the plan where just giving some clarification on what happens to those when they are split. And I don't have, let's see, those would be these, sorry, I'm trying to pull up the page. These lots here that may have, and that's currently flashing, that's not very helpful, but those deeper purple lots, some of which go back pretty far, you know, what happens to those when they're split? The idea being that the frontage still define, the frontage on Sumter Road defines what we would call front building types, no matter if these lots get split or not. Anything behind that front layer on Sumter Road would be the rear building types. So these are kind of the nuts and bolts of the plan details that we've kind of, some of them have come to surface as we've worked through the zoning ordinance amendments. None of these are, at this point, substantial to the changing the future land use designations. But of course, you heard some comments tonight. So as we break into more discussion on the master plan, future land use, and the zoning ordinance development, you can revisit anything you feel necessary to revisit. But at this time, I just encourage further discussion and to revisit the Sumter Road Corridor Plan at a later meeting.
Thank you so much, Director Power. Anybody on the commission have any comments or wish to discuss any of the items on the corridor plan so far?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Jar.
I do want to thank members of the public who came to the meeting tonight, Ms. Kazara and Mr. Berger in person. I want you to know that we have read your written comments as well. Both participants tonight also submitted written comments on this agenda item. Along with many other members of our community, there were over 30 printed pages of public comments so far. I read them all today, and I've read them all. I read them as they come in, and I want you to know that we do hear it. And Ms. Kazara specifically, thank you for your, you took a lot of effort to write up a very detailed description of the history of the area and the area around your property and your concerns. And I've certainly have read them, and I believe I understand them. And thank you. I want to assure you that as I'm looking at this plan, I am respectful of the rural qualities of that part of our township. I like them, I enjoy them, I want to keep them. So I think it's very important for us commissioners on the panel here, as we review the second item tonight in the next 2 weeks, the details of the ordinance, the call-outs for exactly what items are permitted on these zoned properties and what's a special use and what will be allowed and what won't be allowed. It's critical for us, as we hear tonight, to get that right. And so while I don't have comment on it right now, I want to assure you, message received, we will be looking very closely at those items. And that, at this time, that's.
I can't read from here. What's your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. I am Jeff Jar. I am a commissioner. on the Planning Commission. If you want to, if you would like to speak, if that's all right with the chair, but I think we need you to come up to the microphone if you want to speak. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the big overarching comment that I have. I think that our vision for the Sumter Road corridor is a good one. I think we're on the right track. But as Director Powers has said, now we have to get into the details. And the ordinance text itself is, I believe, where the details are at, and where we really need to focus and make certain we're doing the right thing for our community. That is my comment this evening, sir.
Thank you so much. Any other commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Cullen.
Chairman Kelly, again, I'm third generation born here in Belleville. So yes, I am concerned with the way things are, but we also know that we're going to see that Sumter Road developed. And if we don't have some sort of direction for it to go, it's going to go with whatever happens, and it could be to where it makes a lot of people unhappy just to satisfy the people that buy the property and develop it. So we want to be very careful, I think, on what happens and the way it looks. And we see a tremendous amount of traffic. I assume with you living on Cheney, you have trouble getting out of your street at times, especially, I would imagine, between the hours of 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. When the middle school lets out and you got all the traffic coming south out of the city. So I think we have to be concerned with traffic as well as the way it looks and the appearances that we see, as well as taking into account the residents that are existing there. I mean, we got a big thing to make sure that we got something that looks, because as a few of our commissioners have commented, especially tonight, on timing for arriving at the meeting, we know that traffic can blow up and cause a lot of problems. I think we want to try to minimize that, especially going south out of Sumter. And that concludes my comment.
Thank you so much. Any other commissioners wish to speak to this? No? I guess I would just say real briefly, thank you again for coming this evening and for your comments. The game plan, so we have the original draft, and Director Power, if I misspeak, please correct me, but we have our original draft with all the nice pictures and kind of ideas, but the part that Commissioner Jar was talking about is we're now going to get into the text and the wording, so we're not taking action on anything this evening that's on the agenda. We're going through it and trying to get more feedback, trying to get more comments of what people are looking for. So the big kind of chore for us to tackle from here forward is addressing those kinds of concerns that are being brought by the board. The committee that worked on this, all of the consultants that worked on this have put a lot of time in and have done an amazing job. But the main goal is to make sure that we don't create something that's miserable and that we don't see going forward the community developing in a way that it's not anticipated. So again, thank you for your comments this evening. So if we have any other items, any other discussion items for this agenda item? So, right, and I guess Director Power, I think the consensus is just from the comments as we keep moving forward, keep getting additional comments from the public as it comes in, and then we've got a big chore ahead of us with the going through some of the language and things that is up for discussion next. So, thank you again. All right, well, that concludes item number 2. You don't need us to do an official motion, I don't believe.
No.
Thank you. All right, so item number 3 is discussion of Sumter Road Mixed-Use Zoning District and Sumter Road Overlay District. Director Power?
Yes, thank you. So this is the text, a lot of the text that makes that plan activated. So it is a really important body of text, and it's a big one. Any mixed-use zoning district, any what they call a form-based code is going to have a lot of components to it because it's kind of trying to account for a lot of different future scenarios. So the Planning Commission first received a version of this back in March, March 23rd. And then we had a more involved discussion April 13th or 27th, one of our April meetings. And I've included some minutes. It was the 13th. I've included some minutes in your packet from that April 13th meeting. Rather than go through the entire format of the draft ordinance, I'll just summarize what's kind of been done since then. And let me get to a page that kind of kicks off the actual ordinance, the Sumter Road Mixed Use Ordinance. So this is kind of what the main header page for that mixed use district looks like. But when we met on April 13th, there were a number of comments from commissioners that we wanted to follow up with. One of the big comments from that meeting was excluding drive-throughs, yes or no. We still do not list drive-throughs as a permitted by right or special land use in our permitted uses table. And it's important to kind of use that as a launch point to describe when we're talking about a mixed use district like this, a table like this is going to be the all-encompassing table of permitted uses that you'll draw from. It's not that any of the C, C1, C2, or any of the M1, M2, or any of the OT uses all get boiled into mixed use. It really is a list of uses that we want to be comfortable with in this table. So this table still does not include drive-throughs, and there was some good discussion on that, so I want to invite further feedback on that topic. What I will say is that this table has a comment that that has been added in a very recent edition of these amendments that says that at the discretion of the Planning Commission, additional unlisted uses may be considered if they adhere to the building types in section 3.121G, which is this section of the zoning ordinance, and are justified due to the character of the surrounding land uses. And at the Planning Commission, Planning Director's discretion, additional unlisted uses may be referred as special land uses, subject to special land use review. So there's some room for modification in there under the right circumstances, but this list otherwise is exhaustive. And there are certain uses that would only be permitted in certain zoning districts. Circling back, that relates to drive-throughs because drive-throughs are still not listed as one of the primary permitted uses in the district. We have added a new definition for a very light-scale manufacturing called artisanal or cottage manufacturing. I encourage you to look at. It speaks to the question about small blacksmithing. If that were to occur in this district, it allows for that. There was a question about the city of Belleville's adjacent zoning districts. And I'll pull this image up again. In my cover letter of the meeting tonight, you'll find that I have a table that kind of breaks down the zoning districts in the city of Belleville and their adjacency here, but this map also kind of shows it. So if you click here, you'll see where they have multifamily residential zoning, single-family residential zoning. These different shades of purple are different forms of industrial zoning, and their red is a form of general business or commercial zoning. So you kind of get a picture that they have a variety of different zoning in the area, and actually their code is sort of form-based as well, so they have a lot of different uses within each of those districts. But I just wanted to respond to the request for more information on that. So please feel free to look at that table in my cover letter tonight as you look at the rest of the zoning ordinance amendments. There was a comment about green belts or adjacency requirements where under normal circumstances you have certain landscaping buffers that are required between commercial and residential or industrial and residential. This newest ordinance that I've provided in your packet does not have that, but I intend for it to. So there will be an edit that draws an analog between the commercial uses and the C, C1, C2 buffer requirements, et cetera, and the industrial uses and the M1 buffer requirements. There's a 10-foot side yard setback requirement with allowance for the Planning Commission to make modifications to that under the right circumstances for certain building types. And then some specific changes and discussion points, some of which is fed by comments like what Ms. Kazara said tonight. But there's a lot of feedback about the adjacency of higher intensity uses next to existing residential. So the document that you have will be a little bit refined, but what it includes is protections that restrict in anything labeled in this district as being an industrial use from being within 200 feet of existing dwellings, unless a modification is justified by the Planning Commission for that requirement. Similarly, commercial uses within 100 feet of a dwelling will be subject to those C district requirements, which Ms. Kazara mentioned tonight. Again, subject to the ability for modification, but as a baseline, those C district requirements would kind of layer on top of those commercial uses that are very close to homes. I mentioned that there will be greenbelt requirements clarified in the next round of changes. There is a line now for restaurant with walk-up window, which was not included before, but that's kind of an important part of the feel of this district with kind of that bear claw coffee roadside stand type of a food service use where you can walk up to a window, or maybe an ice cream restaurant where you have a walk-up window. That was just something we intended to include, but now is listed. And I think that covers how we got from the big ordinance that you had in April to the big ordinance that you have kind of in progress right now. I intend to give you one more email with one more big ordinance because there were some changes that, based on these very recent discussions, have been made quite recently. So I plan to send the very latest draft to you in the next couple of days here. But it is a work in progress, and I encourage you to kind of continue to reflect on the comments that you review on the master plan process, to kind of use that to provide us some feedback and to see how we can make this responsive to everything we've worked toward. So there's no recommended action on the zoning ordinance amendments tonight either. I would just say that process-wise, I would encourage you to look at both the plan and the zoning ordinance amendments continually, and we will eventually have a hearing on the plan and the ordinance amendments before there's a recommendation first on the plan and then a recommendation on the ordinance amendments to kind of activate this whole process. So that's all I wanted to say. I think that's probably enough for tonight. Feel free to ask me if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Director Power. Any questions, comments from commissioners this evening?
Mr. Chair, I'd say that I'm glad to see that we have the green belt and some of the zone adjacency text added in. I think we heard this evening from the public, and I know I've read it in several of the public comments, that lot screening between the different zone types is important. It may not just be something that is a distance factor. We may need to consider visual screening between residential and Sumter Road mixed-use type lots. So I'm glad to see that that's coming in. It's certainly an area that we'll be looking into as we review the document. I also want to thank you for putting in the 2 columns in the table with the check marks saying which uses are available in which district. That's going to really make our review process a lot easier. The document is large, and it does bear some printing out and reading with a pencil. So thank you very much for your work. It is a lot of work. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Director Power, we've been working on this project for almost a year now, right?
The first meeting was late, I think the introductory webinar was late April of 21, so it's been over a year.
Over a year. Okay, well, I feel like we're making really great progress on this, and thank you. It's a big effort.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners wish to speak to this agenda item? No? And anybody in the public wish to speak to this agenda item? Courtney, I don't think we asked on the last one, so we'd be open to either regarding number 3 or this one. All right. I really like the tables. The plan looks really, really good. Thank you so much. I think the only question I have for this evening is if there is a conflict, do we have a provision somewhere that if there's a conflict with the table, that the language,
Yes.
that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, the severability clause will be there at the end of the ordinance, and some of the changes we made includes flexibility for the planning commission because we didn't want the screening or greenbelt requirements to be so absolute because sometimes you cannot, one recipe does not fit for everything. Maybe the planning commission will think instead of having a 200-foot distance, 100-foot, but with maybe a decorative masonry wall and 4 staggered rows of evergreens so that they don't even see the wall actually is more effective to protect the single-family residential homes. That's why we wanted to build enough flexibility so the planning commission can get to the end result of where it wants to go without, saying the ordinance is absolute. We don't think it's the best fit, but it's what it says. So we're making sure that's there.
Perfect, thank you. All right, again, great work, and I can't wait to see our next draft when it comes through.
Thank you.
All right, so that will bring us up this evening to general discussion and updates. Director Power, do you have anything for updates or general discussion?
I do, there will be a meeting on June 8th. We already have a public hearing for Cobblestone Creek Villas is the attached single-family housing that's just east of Hoff Road off of West Huron River Drive. On the east side of the circle, if you're familiar with those two developments, there's Ridge and Creek. This is Cobblestone Creek. So Infinity Homes is coming in to propose some changes to the original design. So there will be a hearing on that. And then a couple of other things that are still taking shape. I did want to take an opportunity tonight to just give a brief update on something that's pretty visible if you ever come to Township Hall, which clearly you do. And if you take Belleville Road, which most people do, Meyer has a large volume of shipping containers outside of the store. And that's because they are getting ready for 2 phases of work, potentially, and almost certainly 1 phase of work, which will involve the interior renovations to the store. So I'm still piecing together the floor plan layout, but they're moving some things around in their food section and their electronics section and a little bit here and there, everything in between. But the ultimate goal is to make way for a pharmacy drive-through addition and a minor addition to the gas station, which would be the phase 2 work. So the permit for the interior renovations that does not impact the drive-through is ready to issue as we speak. It's kind of in the process of invoicing and getting ready to be issued. So those containers will start to be there to stage some items as they start to move things around inside the store. But before anything happens on the drive-through or the gas station addition, you'll know about it. It'll be a special land use and site plan review with Planning Commission. That's my only announcements.
Thank you so much, Director Power. Commissioner Jar?
I have a question for Director Powers. Yes. Is the Myers addition on the side of the building for, I believe we approved one at one point for, was it online order fulfillment, grocery pickup?
They can build it.
Okay,
Well, it doesn't replace that. That's withdrawn.
it's
They're not gonna
withdrawn.
build that.
Okay,
That's
thank
right.
you.
Yep, good question. Through the chair, I do have one more announcement. I should read one other non-agenda item I forgot to mention. Just wanted to read from Stephen Dark. I'm happy seeing all of the work being put into the Sumter Road corridor. Next, I think the township should focus on a Rawsonville Road corridor plan. That area could use some love and care, and if the Lakewood Shopping Center might redevelop, let's see, this is a longer one. If the Lakewood Shopping Center might redevelop in the coming years, some parameters should be set as to what they can and cannot build there.
Thank you. Any other commissioners, staff, or consultants? No? No. All right, nothing further, then a motion to adjourn our meeting this evening.
Motion to adjourn.
Support. Motion by Commissioner Jar, support by Commissioner Cullen. Any discussion or comments? Seems we have done. All in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you this evening. Thank you. Everybody did an amazing job.
Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, thank you for coming in.
It was gonna be a while before I could get it.
All right. I have to run
A couple of things, but
run.